So when I was driving in this morning, I was thinking about why so many people go to church on Christmas and Easter, and then we don't see them again. And what happens around those times that kind of makes people flood to church? And maybe it's because we just want community and we want to be with our families and friends during those special times. But maybe also it's that there's so much hype and there's all the music and you see everything on TV and people are talking about it. Around Christmas, we're preparing for gifts. You go in the stores and you hear Christmas carols playing. People are having parties. So there's kind of an uplift in consciousness. People seem to be happier. There's more going on and we're thinking about what's coming up. And probably the same thing for Easter. You know, it's a high holy day. Passover is generally around the same time. And so we're more vigilant about what's coming up and what's happening. And then, as with all of life, there's this maybe a letdown for a lot of people, where all of a sudden the excitement is over. All the fun is over. All the good feeling, the music stopped. We take down the decorations. So I wanted to go back to what I read from the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary last week, and we may stay on this for a while because I think this is the reason we are all here and what our job is to do, which is to take on being the Christ. I remember somebody saying a long time ago that most of us, you keep hearing Jesus Christ, and so you may think Christ was Jesus' last name. But it's actually that Jesus was the Christ. And we all aspire to be the Christ in our lives. And this is, again, what I read last week from the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary about what the Christ means. Christ is the only begotten Son of God, or the one complete idea of perfect man in divine mind. He is the embodiment of all divine ideas, such as intelligence, life, love, substance, and strength. This Christ, or perfect man idea, existing eternally in divine mind, is the true spiritual higher self of every individual. Each of us has within him the Christ. By continually unifying ourselves with the highest, with a capital H, by our thoughts and words, we too shall become sons of God manifest. So we all are sons of God, but we're talking about sons of God manifest here in the world, expressing as the Christ. We do not realize the nearness of this cosmic man because we have not found our real selves. If we succeed, we must bring forth the principle, meaning the Christ. It gives dominion and mastery. So it says again, for every individual. That means each of us sitting here. And so the challenge, as with this letdown after Christmas and Easter, is that we have to keep the principle alive within us. Every day we have to have a resurrection into the Christ within us. And so it says again, by continually unifying ourselves with the highest by our thoughts and words, we too shall become sons of God manifest. So what does that mean, our thoughts and words? So there's this great little book I read a while ago called the 4-8 Principle, meaning Philippians chapter 4, verse 8. And this is what it says about thinking and our thoughts and unifying ourselves with the highest. Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things. It's a great, great little book by Tommy Newberry. Think on these things. What is lovely, what is just, what is good, what is true. And so when we feel the letdown of life because of our circumstances, go to the good and the true. Unifying our thoughts with the highest in us, highest with a capital H. So we all struggle with that. I've struggled with it this week. And it's been a daily, sometimes more than once a day, I have had to think, what is my core? Who am I really? Why am I sitting here struggling like this? Because this is not who I am. This ugliness, the combativeness sometimes we feel, the dissension sometimes that rises around what we do, that's not who we are. We are goodness and truth and peace. And so even though it may be a struggle, we have to return our thoughts to God and goodness and love and openness. Because when we contract and we get into that crisis that we are in and we stay there and we wrestle with it, we fight with it, all we do is hold it closer and make it expand in our lives. And it becomes bigger and it surrounds us and it takes over our hearts. And then we suffer. I'm tired of suffering some days, but we stay in the suffering. We do it to ourselves. Because it's possible to rise above anything and everything if we step into the Christ, the potential that we have and that we really are. We keep saying potential, but it's a potential to embrace it and use it because we really are it. Gosh, I think we've been talking about this every single week, and we may need to talk about it every single week because that's the challenge. Life happens. Stuff happens. We're smoking along and suddenly that rug gets pulled out from under you. Something slaps you in the face that you didn't expect. And where do you go? To God, to your heart. The 12 powers of man as inspired through Charles Fillmore. Faith, imagination, right judgment and wisdom, life, love, order, power, renunciation, strength, understanding, will, and zeal. We are those things, friends. If you're going to hold on to anything, hold on to that.
That's right.
Start your day saying, I am faith and strength. Say it out loud. Say it proudly because that's who you are. With a conviction that can flip the switch for you and raise you out of your circumstances. Gosh, the stuff gets deep sometimes, doesn't it?
That's right.
And no matter how much we try to scrape it off our boots and shake it off of us, it threatens to rise up and drown us. But there is no darkness that the light cannot permeate. But you gotta call the light in. And that's the light within you. There's this wonderful song from The Color Purple, and that's the title. It's the title song. And it goes like this. God is inside me, and everyone else that was or ever will be. I came into this world with God, and when I finally looked inside, I found it. God is the flowers and everything else that was or ever will be. And when we feel the truth so real, and when you love the way you feel, you found it. When you love the way you feel, you found it. But you got to feel it. You can't just walk around saying, I love God, I have faith. You got to feel it and get it in your bones. And I don't know how you may do that. We talked about this before. Go for a walk in nature. Listen to music. Find a song that will lift you up out of whatever it is drowning you, so that you're reminded who you are and where you come from. The Christ. That is what we get to step into and be, so that you can claim the dominion that we've been given, that we inherited, in order to walk this earth and do what we're called to do. That's what gives us dominion and mastery, as the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary just said. Mastery. We have mastery when we are single-minded. And we do the same thing over and over. We are single-minded in our goodness. The masters in golf. Those are the best. The people who practice at it, work at it, wake up thinking about it. They can see themselves hitting a shot. Is that the right way to put it? I don't play golf.
Perfect.
Oh, a golf player over here.
That's right.
And they see that shot in their heads and that ball going through the air, hitting the ground and going right into that cup. Tiger Woods practices in his head. Every good, great athlete will tell you they practice in their heads as well as go out and practice physically. That's what we get to do as sons and daughters of God. Practice and see it in our minds. Go out into the world and do it right. Be goodness. Be light. No matter what. And especially when our feelings are telling us to do something else. We get so wrapped up in our feelings. And in our humanness, we're going to have feelings, yes. So don't deny them, but remind yourself that you have mastery over them when your feelings are taking you somewhere you don't want to go, because you aspire to express as the Christ every day. Invoke the strength and the courage and the power that you have within your heart when you're in the midst of those feelings, and say, you know what, I can't deny my anger right now. I can't deny my grief right now. I can't deny my shame right now, but I can also affirm that the Christ lives within me. And I am goodness and light. And I can show up the way I need to show up despite what I feel. There's so much within us that we don't tap because we don't invoke it. And yes, if we have to talk about this every week, we will talk about it every week. I need it every week, and I suspect you might too. Dominion and mastery. Be a spiritual athlete, the one who wakes up thinking, who am I going to be today? Tommy Newberry says in this book, instead of having a to-do list, have a think list. What am I going to think about today? What do I need to invoke of those 12 powers? Which one of those do I need to invoke today in light of my circumstances? So if you have a challenging relationship, maybe you invoke love, unconditional love, and say, I'm going to show up as unconditional love today. Because that's what my relationships require of me. That's what I require of me because that's who I want to be. That's who I am today. So even though I'm feeling something else and I want to invoke something else because of my ego, the God within says, you are so much more. And go and be love. Go and be love. And then at the end of the day, or when you're ready to check things off, you can say, yes, I was loved today. Despite the fact that my feelings were trying to take me somewhere else. So think about, wake up, and the first thing is, what do I want to be? What am I going to think? I have dominion and mastery. I get to choose who I am, not my circumstances, not the people around me, not the news, not the economy, not my job, not my boss, not the stuff that's tossing me around and driving me crazy. You have dominion over that. Remind yourself. Because that's who we are. Dominion and mastery. So in this first week after Easter, rise again. And every time you fall, rise again. Let the suffering go. Yeah. Just let it go. Drop it. And choose something else. Choose to be who you are. Love and goodness and truth. The 4-8 principle, Philippians. If you need to read it again and remind yourself. That's what we are. So my prayer for you is that you'll remember that, and every day when you open your eyes, you will choose to rise again. And whatever you need to help you do that, call it in. Whether it's a friend who also is walking this path, music, nature, scripture, a favorite spiritual book, and immerse yourself in it. Think on these things.